Okay, hey, so good morning, Scott. I can see you there in the Zendo, and good morning, everybody else in the Zendo. I can see quite a number of lovely, familiar faces. It's great to see you all there, and likewise, everybody on the Zoom. But actually, before I go any further, um, maybe Scott, you could just let me know whether it's all working okay for you there. Yeah, I think that's a big thumbs up. But I'm thinking some of you in the Zendo, why don't you move closer? I mean, aren't I sort of like way back on a little TV kind of thing? I mean, if you'd like, it just seems like there's a lot of space there. Might as well use it. Um, yeah, great. And it's really and actually I just saw Kieran put his head around. I don't know if do you think Kieran can hear me now if I say something to him, Scott?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Kieran, thank you. Thank you very much for setting it all up. Okay, great. Now, everybody else on like me, zooming in. Um, great to be with you. You know, you thank you, Valerie. Lovely to see you. And many friends, John, good to see you now, and Bill, love it, and Mary Francis and Glenn, good to see you all, and many of the original Love participants. Thank you all for coming on. And Valerie, particularly, thank you for the honor of giving this first talk. And it's nice that you're actually also at home, not in the Zendo. So you're like the rest of us. I think you did that out of a feeling of wanting to be with us in the same situation. So thank you. Now, I believe that a good number of you may not have done, um, a longer retreat. I think that's the case, at least some number of you. And this might be your first, or maybe you haven't done one in a long time. Um, just sort of very cursorily getting an impression of the sitting, right, of the previous period. It looked like, of course, some of you had your cameras off, but the ones I could see, it looked like you were really dropping in. I mean, the vibe I got was that this is quite well dropped in already, even though it's only just starting out this retreat. So that's really good. But think of this think of this in any retreat as a journey. You know, it's a journey. So um, that means that we don't know where we're going. You know, a true journey is always a real true journey in this life. You know, is always uh, going from sort of what we know to what we don't know. And that course is the journey of practice. If it weren't, we wouldn't really be growing. Growing means uh, finding what we do not already know. And even, I'd say, finding what we do not already anticipate. You know, I'm going to read you a tiny little poem I just wrote the other day. Very simple, very short, 4 lines. And it's called Finistère. Now, you probably, some of you will know that Finistère is a place. There's actually one in Brittany, in the northwest of France. And there's something similar in, maybe it's in Portugal, I think, maybe slightly different formulation of the words, but finis, terre, Terre, it means, I mean, that's how the French name is, but it's simply straight from Latin. It means finis, end, terrae, genitive of the land, the end of the land. And actually in England, at the end of Cornwall, kind of almost parallel to the Finistère of Brittany, which is northwest France, the other side of the channel, there's the Cornish Peninsula, at the end of it, there's a town and a headland called Land's End. So it's the same name, just translated. Land's End, Finistère. So this little poem if I can just find it, is called Finistère. It's so short that you wouldn't think I need to find it, but because it's so new, I want to find it just to make sure I get it right. Sorry, just 1 second. Here it is. Finistère. Yes, this is where the land ends. Finistère. Yes, this is where the land ends. But every sailor knows this is where the journey begins. The voyage starts here. That's it. I'll read it again because it is rather short. Finistère. Yes, this is where the land ends. But every sailor knows this is where the journey begins. The voyage starts here. Now, hopefully, that is a little simple, almost like I was going to say like a cipher or a mnemonic, maybe that's the word, like a little thing to just remember again and again in a retreat. The voyage starts here. Always here. Always here. And, you know, we could, much to say about that word here, but just relevant for us all now as we're scattered hither and thither in the parts of the world doing our Zoom, that, you know, we're all in the one and only here. It's the same here. No, it's not. My room looks like this, not like that. Mine's in France, mine's in the Azores, mine's in Switzerland, mine's in the Bay Area, mine's in the East Coast. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The one here. That's the wonder. That's the beauty. That's the heartbreaking truth, you know. And there is one. There's only one, but there is one. The heartbreaking truth that resolves everything. There is one. Yeah. But there's only one. Right. That's how it is. And the path of practice is the path to getting clearer about that, and then living sort of in accordance with that, living from that. The journey starts, the voyage starts here. It starts here. Okay, so now what I want to do is, just to let you know, is I'm going to talk a little bit about Mu, because some of you will be sitting with that first great koan, Mu. I also want to sort of closely tied in with that, really. I want to talk about, what, it sounds a little bald to put it so crudely, but what is awakening? And particularly, you know, there's a word that you can't go probably too far in Buddhism without coming across, the word emptiness. Sort of, what is it? Why is that any kind of a thing to be interested in? If it's empty, why should I care about it? Or, you know, what is it? What's it got to do with my life? What's it? And why shouldn't I just want to avoid it as much as possible, really? You know, who wants emptiness? So I'm going to address that a bit as well. And then we'll see how the time goes, but I might, there's a couple more things I want to possibly get to, we'll see. But actually, even before I start on that, I've got to just say a few words about Sesshin, the process of doing these retreats. I remember reading, the guy who taught me Zazen, actually, in 1991. I'd been meditating a different style for several years by then. And I met this guy who was a Zen priest who lived in Santa Fe called Robert Winsome. And he'd trained in, I think, basically San Francisco Zen Center for a long time with Richard Baker Roshi, who, after the sort of the scandal and kind of temporary collapse at San Francisco Zen Center in the early 80s, he moved, Richard Baker Roshi moved to Santa Fe, actually. And some of his followers came with him, among them this guy, Robert Winsome, who's a very nice man, as far as I could tell from what I knew of him. And he taught me to sit Zen style in a little zendo that still exists on Cerro Gordo in Santa Fe, right around Upaya. He later, he died suddenly, quite young, actually, sadly. And his wife, who's a very fine poet, Miriam Sagan, she put together a book called Dirty Laundry, which was the correspondence that he and she had over, I think, particularly a period of time when he'd been doing a long retreat, like maybe a 3-month retreat. They wrote lots of letters to each other. And it was a good title because they're just about ordinary sort of nuts and bolts of living in the two ways. She in their home in Santa Fe, he in the Zen Center. Actually, it was up in Crestone where Richard Baker Roshi had a center. He sort of left Santa Fe and went up there, I think, basically. And this book, there's just a line in it, I remember, which was where he said that I think he'd gone up at one point just to do a short, like a week-long retreat or a 5-day retreat. And he's saying, yeah, the usual kind of antsiness and sort of just yuckiness and a bit distracted and whatever in the first few days. And then he said, now it's the middle day. And as usual, I'm starting to feel again how a human being is supposed to live, how a human being is meant to live. And that was, in the midst of the retreat. And I think that's rather beautiful, that we'll go through all kinds of stuff, doing a retreat. Doesn't matter if it's your first. It's true, it can get a lot easier actually when you've done many, but first or second or third, whatever. You go through stuff, and that's just fine. It's really all part of the settling process. And it's also part of the releasing process. We don't know that it is. We just think, damn, I want to be anywhere but here, doing anything but this, But actually, that's all just part of how the releasing happens in the body and in the mind and in the heart. So the key thing is just to go with it. Don't be too bothered by it. Whatever those voices may tell you, don't pay too much attention to them. You can just hear them, but don't be taken in by them. Think of it as just a radio blaring away in another room. Some commentator just won't stop talking. It's, if you're English, it's like the cricket commentators during a test match. For 5 days, morning till night, they're going on the radio about this cricket match that goes on, and then they're off for a couple of days, and then they're on again for another 5 days. And you just put it on and let it just be playing in another room. Don't pay too much attention to it. Don't pay it no mind. Just there it is. Yes, nattering away. No worries. We're not here to pay attention to that, actually. We're here to just become more and more aware of this here I mentioned. There's a beautiful story by the great Yiddish Jewish writer Isaac Bashevis Singer. Some of you will know of him, who wrote fantastic short stories. He has one where an old couple, it's called Short Friday. Friday is the day before Sabbath, when in a traditional Jewish kosher home, you'd prepare everything needed for the Sabbath, because you can't do anything on the Sabbath day. No cooking, just rest. The day dedicated to rest. And so on the Friday, there's a lot to do to get ready for that. So this couple, a very, very sort of devout and kind and gentle couple. And the story just describes their very beautiful day. And they're very old, and they know they'll be shuffling off this mortal coil before long. They hope they're going to go to heaven and be with the Lord, or whatever exactly the right phrasing would be. And they're having this sublime day. It's just very simple. They're making the pastry, they're making the pie, and he's banking up the fire with fresh firewood, get it nice and hot, and they put all these various things in the stove when it's the right temperature, and there's going to be food for this person and that person. Of course, they'll have some, and and they're thinking of others, and they light the candles at the right time. It's all just very peaceful, and then they go to bed, ready for the Sabbath the next day, really mentioning again this hope of the heaven to come, of being with God and all that, And then the end of the story, it turns out, basically, they're already dead. They're already dead. They're already right there where they long to be. They're living so kind of peacefully, so attentively, so sort of perfectly, as a human being, two human beings, that there's no longer a difference between, the world of earthly things and the world of heavenly things. That's disappeared. And that's a promise of practice, yes, for sure. There's even a koan, a famous koan about that. But it's also a very real possibility within a retreat. These retreats are set up so that it's kind of like the only thing they support us in is practice. So whenever we're sort of off practice, we might have a rocky time. Whenever we're on practice, everything falls into place. Everything's okay. So retreats are a very good training ground for a life of practice. That's why we do them. We have our daily practice, which is essential, that daily sort of checking in with silence and stillness and quiet, and the here, that more and more we realize is boundless. But that's good, that's essential, that's lovely. But then to have these boosters, basically, it's like a booster pack. When you have a retreat, you're fueling your daily practice. You're amplifying your daily practice. And you're amplifying your life, actually. You're giving this precious body, heart, mind that is, the best guess we have at what you are is this body, heart, mind. You're giving it a chance to really just be itself the way it already knows how to be. But alas, there's a lot of conditioning and other things that make it hard for us to just be what we are. Hence practice, hence for some of us koans, hence retreats. So this first koan that I know some of you are working with, I know some of you have worked with, and some of you might not have a clue what I'm talking about. So that's perfectly okay. I'll just don't worry too much, because it sort of could almost apply to anything, the kinds of thing I want to say. But there is a methodology in Zen of sitting with these little imponderable word formulae, formations of words, and some of them are rather long, some of them are really short. And the first koan people sit with usually is the shortest of all. It's just the sound mu, which means not, N-O-T. So the full story is that there's this great master, Jiao Zhou, or Zhou Shu, who's asked a question. He's been a practitioner for many, many years. He lived to the age of 120, and that's on record. It's not legend. And he only began teaching at the age of 80. So this koan happened somewhere between the age of 80 and 120 for Joshu. And he's asked, does a dog have Buddha nature? As a teaching that everything has this Buddha nature. Everything has it. Does even a dog have it? You know, there are some cultures where dogs aren't as treasured as in others, actually, historically and geographically there are. And perhaps a dog was seen as a lowly being or something, surely not a dog, you know. Like we might say, I mean, we probably wouldn't today, but maybe we could almost say something like, does a rat have Buddha nature? You know, does a cockroach have Buddha nature? I think would be something like it, you know. Even a cockroach, does that have Buddha nature? You know, answer, moo, not. Well, that's like the opposite of what we'd think, right? We're good practitioners. Does a cockroach have Buddha nature? Of course it does. Buddha nature is the sort of inclusivity of all. It's the one here that I was talking about, the one truth that there really is one final, ultimate bedrock. Just doesn't happen to be anything, but it's still, there is one. Although it isn't anything, but there is one, but it's not nothing, it's nothing, but there is one. That isn't that the real truth of things? So surely a cockroach has Buddha nature. Not. Moo. Okay, so any of you sitting with this, you know, why does Joshu say no, moo? Really, it's the invitation is to actually kind of be with that sound. Be with the sound. Moo. The whole koan, or the whole of what the koan wants to open up, is right there. Moo. In just that sound. Just that sound. There's not actually something to figure out, ponder, understand. It's the sound itself is the shift in experience. It's sort of come down to us in order to bring about, to help us, to midwife us through a shift in experience. What is that shift? Well, it's the discovery that it's the discovery of basically, in the end, that dreaded thing, emptiness. Discovery of emptiness. So what is that? Well, I'm actually going to read you a little bit that I wrote recently on the subject. Let's see how it goes. Okay, this was written, imagine, for you know, sort of a maybe like many of you here, people who are not so versed in Buddhism, you know, and don't kind of quite know what we're talking about. So here it is. We may quite naturally hear the word emptiness and fear it. But actually, if we get that emptiness is not something to understand or grasp intellectually, it's an experience. The word is nothing more than an attempt to describe an experience. Then maybe our fear could turn into a kind of anticipation or curiosity, even a kind of trust. Because actually, this experience is perhaps the most transformative single entry into reality that we can ever be led into. Emptiness is the ultimate meeting with, okay, hold on, with the love of the universe. Emptiness is the ultimate meeting with the love of the universe. An experience of emptiness wipes everything else away. You know, it's as if we've been living with all kinds of fear, doubt, longing, desire, many of which we know, and some maybe just kind of under the surface, but they still color our day-to-day life. And when, in my case, when I was gently led to a kind of cliff and found I'd stepped off it, in a way through no will of my own, all my life, as I'd known it, disappeared. Of course, the cliff too. And of course, anything that I thought I was. But after it, when things kind of reconstitute, it's all a little different. Some core nugget of dissatisfaction, of hunger, of wanting, of seeking, had been satisfied. I'd seen what I needed to. My quest was over, because I'm talking a little personally here. I was whole. I had found. I was no longer a seeker. Thereafter, I was no longer pulled this way and that, towards certain things and away from others. I'd seen. Everything was what it seemed, but at the same time was a space, an ease, a peace that was always here. We can see through the whole show. The whole show. And seeing through it erases positive and negative. And because of that, all is well. Just behind this world of beauty and loss, of love and hate, of greed and anger, is a wide open peace. And we can return to it. And in my case, I'd seen enough in my practice for that peace to no longer come and go. It's like it wipes the slate clean. It's really a little bit like being born anew. All the fabric of this moment is all there is. All the fabric of this moment is all there is. Is all there is. It's a kind of ultimate return. It's the end of seeking and searching. And actually, it's the end of awakening. what that means is something called awakening can only exist when there's something called non-awakening, or in the traditional terms, delusion or ignorance or misunderstanding. But an experience of true emptiness or goneness wipes away all experience altogether. Everything ceases. Everything is blown out, as the word nirvana implies. Everything is extinguished, as the Hindu word moksha suggests. But scary though this eradication may sound, it is the ultimate blessing of the spiritual path. It simultaneously ends and fulfills our seeking. Now we are freed even from spiritual aspiration. Finally, there is really no more to discover. We are fulfilled at last. Let me just see what this is. I've got to, but it, yeah. Sorry, where does this go? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure. I've got a note here. Doesn't really. So, yeah, saying that really it's not that everything disappears. It's that there's nothing to disappear. It doesn't need to disappear. So now finally, we're home and can no longer not be. Another way to look at this is that, we were living in a dualistic view where there's basically me and there's everything else. So that's two. There's me in here and the world out there. And just to be clear, this body is actually part of the world out there. Because, I think of my foot. I experience my pain in my hip. That's me and it. So the me is the ultimate sort of subject, the me. So it can be a subject within the body of another part of the body, if you see what I mean. Or I can be aware of a thought. That's me and the thought. Two things. Dualistic. That's what dualistic means. It's me and other things. Me and a thought, me and a feeling, me and an object, me and a sound, me and mu. See, mu is a sound we hear in the mind. I hear mu. I make the sound mu. That's what we do in mu practice. Really, we sort of just do it, but those of you who are doing it, we just do it, but in fact, we're actually studying that relationship of me to mu. We don't know we're doing that. We think we're just doing this sort of crazy practice of repeating mu in the mind, but actually we're studying the relationship, me and mu, me and everything else, me and world. We're studying that without knowing that we're studying it. And what happens is, because we're studying it, investigating it, suddenly we may just see, wow, that relationship was not the way I thought. It never has been. It's me and mu, two things. No, suddenly that falls down and there's no longer a gap between me and mu. The gap disappears. That's what mu practice, in a sense, is for. And when that happens, when there's no me and it, well, we've seen no gap because no me and no it. Can't be a gap. Empty of gap, empty of me, empty of mu. Okay, so something like that. So first we lived in this dualistic view, which we trained ourselves in somewhere between the age of 18 months and 3, or something like that, 3 years old. And so this, and then we discover there's actually something else, non-dual experience. Fantastic. And then we live a bit in both, kind of we're aware of the non-dual because we've experienced it, and we do experience it from time to time. But we're also back in painful old dualistic way of seeing things, and we go back and forth typically, and so we've actually got another duality between. Hope this isn't too technical. Just bear with me. Between the non-dual and the dualistic, we have another duality. But in true non-dual, there can't be a duality. And that's what really sort of emptiness can get rid of. You see through that. It's all okay, you know. It's all, I mean, from a sort of spiritual point of view, it's all the ultimate truth. There's no more than just this. No more than it. There's nothing more to find. There's nothing to find, actually. But we have to find that. You know, we have to find that there's nothing to find. It's not enough just to hear, oh, it's okay, I just sort of, I'll just be mellow, there's nothing to find. No, you actually have to experience that there is nothing to find. Then you're free to the whole business, if you see what I mean. And then it's about, well, what can we do to serve and help? So, yeah, let me just check. I don't think that's, yeah, that's basically what I was going to read. Just coming back to my notes here. 1 second, please. Yeah, okay, good. So I think that's probably enough for now. So see if I can launch, say anything helpful for, you know, onward sitting through this first day. Well, I feel that actually, I'm going to read you something that I think is relevant for this. Because I have a yeah. Okay, so we know our practice is growing in us when we can have a difficult feeling, be present, and we notice it, and instead of reacting against it, wishing it gone, instead we find a wide tenderness within, like a warmth of kindness that feels the pain of that feeling and immediately becomes kind. It's almost as if, let's say you're suddenly feeling some anxiety. So how long is this period going to go on? My knee's hurting, you know, or what have I got myself into? 4 or 5 days of this, what am I doing? You know, or something in your life that's stressful, you know, comes up and you feel some anxiety, some stress. That very anxiety or stress becomes a catalyst for warmth, for compassion, for tenderness. It's almost as if we enjoy the anxiety now, almost as if anxiety even feels good to us. It's partly perhaps because other agendas we might have gone quiet. It's more important right now to meet this distress, whatever it may be, with love. For example, we might be wanting to get to work on something, or to fix some household problem, or answer some emails. But right now, we're able to put all that aside and sit still and be with our experience. And we can tend whatever feeling of distress may have arisen. We can love it. And the loving warmth that it inspires, really it can make it as if the difficult feeling itself is a beautiful kind of warmth. And it had only ever been that. And all along we misunderstood it. And it's as if there's nothing more important than it. Does that make sense? Like this is how it can become in practice. And then the anxiety and the love that it really is, and that it calls forth, these are what matter most. These are somehow part of a wider truth, a greater reality. These are, in a way, the heart of the world. And as we rest and sink into them, they take over our experience. They become the beauty of the whole wide world. So I wanted to share that, and I'm glad I read it actually, rather than trying to speak to it, because this can really, I think this is relevant for doing retreats because we're kind of, we're fairly sort of exposed in a sense, because we don't have our normal distractions to reach to. We're just sitting, we're really, the value of it is the fact that we're just sitting and just being. And the challenge of it is that, therefore, we may move through some rocky periods, and it can be quite difficult because there's just them, there's no easy way you can't just grab the phone, you can't just open the fridge, or you can't just go out for a walk, or you can't get back to work on something, or whatever you might normally do. We just have to face these currents and tides and energies that do move through us. So see how welcoming, patient, accepting you can be of whatever arises for you in this sitting. And sometimes you'll notice that you can't be very patient and can't be very peaceful. And then, okay, can you be with that? Can you just let that be how it is? Right now, it's hard for me to let things be the way things are. That's what I'm going to be with. That's what I'm going to let be. The fact that I find it hard to let things be as they are right now. See what I mean? I got anxiety. It doesn't feel anything like this loving warmth business Henry's talking about. It just feels horrible. Okay. Can I just be with that? Be with the fact that there's anxiety right now and it feels bad. Because actually, if you really can, if you really do, and you really do that, you'll notice something soft comes in, something tender and somehow true comes in. So there's anxiety. I'm just imagining a scenario, because this could happen. Anger comes up, maybe. Irritation comes up. Fear comes up. Sorrow comes up. And no, not now. I'm in the middle of this retreat. This is the last thing I want. This is all about peace and love, and I got this nasty feeling coming up. Avast, be gone, horrid feeling. No. Can I let it be here? No, I can't at all. I just can't at all. Okay, fine. I can't let this difficult feeling be here right now. Okay. That's the statement. I can't let this difficult feeling be here right now. Say it to yourself. So then you can acknowledge, I am a being who is finding it hard to let this difficult feeling be here right now. That's the reality. It's really all you've got to do, actually, is let things be as they are. See what I mean? You let it be, that you can't let this difficult feeling be. You just get clear that that's what's going on, and there's some little piece of sharpness that melts. Some little sharp corner gets ground off. Okay, that's what it'd be so cool if you find that. Be very good. I think it'd be good for all of us, because we're growing, we're on a journey when that happens. We suddenly see a larger picture. We're moving from the end of the land as we know it into the world as we don't know it. Ah, yeah. Okay, great. And that's what these retreats are for, to grow. Yeah, I'm not growing. I'm 3 days in and I'm still just kind of tightened around some annoying thing. I'm so annoyed and frustrated that I can't get into a different state of mind. And I'm so disappointed. I'm doing this special retreat and there's all this Well, first of all, we never really know the benefits of a retreat. We certainly don't know them during it. That's for sure. That's for damn sure. So don't worry about that. Secondly, just let it be that way. Thoroughly frustrating, thoroughly disappointing. How beautiful. Beautiful frustration. Beautiful disappointment. How beautiful. How marvelous. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there, and Godspeed, and wish you well, and may, ahoy, what's the word? What do you say when you leave the shore? Goodbye, Finisterre. Goodbye, Finisterre. Off you go. Wave from the stern. Wave at Finisterre. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Valerie. And thank you, Scott, so much for anchoring us all in the Zendo. Thank you all for being on, and just go gently, but go.